told you this was gonna be tough, but hey guys, this was a topic that I had no intention of making a video about. Let's just get into it, okay? And to begin, because I don't want this video to get blocked like some of my others, I'm gonna try to dance around with my words here. This video is kind of a continuation from a couple of my other videos where my best friend did stuff to me without my consent. I stopped hanging out with him and I made a new best friend. We'll call him Jose. So when my best friend found out about me and Jose, he kind of went and told my sister, hey, I think Mikey and Jose are doing stuff with each other. She tells me, I get pissed, I confront my best friend, say, hey, you want me to tell her everything? So he kind of goes back and says, hey, I was joking, it's a lie, I made it up. So this picks up from there because yeah, my friendship with him ended.
The show is over, say goodbye.
And my friendship with Jose, which I knew him before, but we did become best friends. Things did start to happen with me and Jose. I remember the first night we were in the basement and like lifting weights, and somehow that turned into us playing Truth or Dare, and of course that began just kind of vanilla-ish and lots of truths. But as time goes on, we go into the dares, and it's like, I dare you to do this, I dare you to touch me here, I dare you to lick that. Like, ended up doing tons of stuff with each other. I mentioned this before, but like in New York City, when the weather was bad, the kids would kind of hang out in the hallways of the apartment building, and specifically that top floor, which went into the roof. There are no apartments there, so we kind of have some privacy, and so a lot of us would just hang out there, just to chill, just to talk. But me and Jose, we would, man, oh my gosh, we would do some stuff like on that floor, on the roof. Man, I remember he would, oh my gosh, he would do like this. He was so cute and so inventive with how he got me to do stuff. Like this one time, like we're like sitting on the steps, the stairs, and it's cold, and he's got this big like coat on, this big heavy coat, and I'm cold, and he goes, and he's sitting on the stairs, and he goes, why don't you just, and I'm sitting below him, he goes, why don't you just stick your head under my coat? And so I do that, and I'm just like, my head is under his coat. And I remember he kind of like, we're like that for a while, just talking, and he goes, he made an excuse to get up for some whatever reason, but he sits back down, and I go to put my head under his coat again, but this time his thing was out. So it's like right there next to my face. And yeah, this is crazy, but yeah. What I did notice though after that is that it seemed like other guys, they were being forward as well. Like another dude who lived down the street from me, it's just me and him on that top floor. And I remember I had a coin. I don't recall what type of coin it was, but it was just kind of a cool coin. And I remember him saying, can I have the coin? I'm like, no. And he goes, well, if I service you, will you give me the coin? And I was like, yeah. So he serviced me, and I gave him the coin. And then that started something with me and him, to where we started fooling around, and just kind of experimenting with each other. And there was another guy who I remember, now this dude, I actually did not do anything with him. We would hang out together, but nothing ever happened. And that was the dude who his mom said something to my stepmom. So I remember her like saying, "Hey, Mikey, like, yeah, are you doing stuff with this guy? Because his mom's saying something." I'm like, what? Oddly enough, the one dude who I wasn't doing anything with, that's the one where this kind of was brought up. I'm like, no, we have done nothing with each other. I promise you, because we hadn't. It's weird looking, looking back, 2020 is, but at the time I really was not kind of piecing this stuff together. I just thought there were like individual things that were happening. It wasn't until there was this other guy who was we went to the same school as my sister. So he lived in the neighborhood, but not on that block. But he would still come by every once in a while, and we would all hang out together. But this one time, it's just he and I. And I remember we went to this park to where we had to cross a bridge to go to the park. Go to the park. On the way back, he was just like forward. He just showed me his junk, and he's like, "Service me." And I was like, "No,
not today."
And he's like, "Come on, you want to." And I'm like, no, I don't. But that kind of started this negotiation thing. I'm like, "Oh no, you service me first. Well, if you do it for 5 minutes, I'll do it for," like we're trying to doing this whole back and forth. And finally, I just I don't know, I just didn't want to be in that situation anymore. So I said, "No, thank you." And he's trying to get me. I'm like, no, I'm going home. So as I'm walking back to the apartment, I just remember thinking, that was the first time where I thought, something's odd here. And
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
at this point, I'm in high school, and I just thought I have to just remove myself from it. I didn't get a good feeling about what was going on, and I didn't want it to happen. So I just kind of cut everyone off and just focused on high school and my high school friends. And so that was that. So fast forward, I joined the military, get my first boyfriend, and I planned this surprise trip to New York. Of course, no one knew at the time. I was still in the closet. But I found out where my mom lived. I go to surprise her, and she's living in this, like, it was a 3-story townhome where it was kind of like somewhat divided into apartments each floor. The deal was, okay, so you and your friend will sleep with your sister in her room on the floor. So that's what we did. The next morning, this guy is kind of like calling for my sister through the, outside the window. So she looks out of the window, they're talking to each other. And so I kind of look out because I could tell where the conversation was like, there was a non-platonic vibe going on. So I see this guy, and he was, my sister at this point must have been maybe 16, I think, I want to say. But he was like older than I was. But I knew I got the vibe. I knew something else was going on. So they finished their conversation, and I remember I'm sitting on her bed. She sits down next to me, and she goes, "I just want to say that as long as you love each other, that's all that matters. Nothing else matters." And I was like, "Oh, you really, really mean that?" And she goes, "Yes." I said, "You really believe that?" "Yes, I believe that, 100%. I said, "Okay." I said, "I have something to say, but I don't know how to say it." I said, "Just give me a piece of paper and a pen." He hands the piece of paper pen to me, and I write, "I'm bi." And I'll explain the bi part. That's another story. But I just write, "I'm bi," fold it up, hand it to her. She opens up the piece of paper, and she kind of takes it and just covers her eyes with it. And now I'm freaking out because I'm like, oh shit, because she's crying. So she goes, "Does anyone else in the family know?" And I said, "No." I said, "You're the first." And she goes, "I'm so happy you told me first." And so we kind of hugged. We were both crying, and he was a little too old, I will say that. But at the same time, I had no place to judge. And if And I did agree with her. As long as you love someone, that's really all that matters. So we're having this great conversation, like what I feel like was the first real and honest conversation that I ever had with someone in my family. She was the first person in my family that I came out to, so it was a special moment with love and laughter, because here's the crazy part. So to go back in time for a little bit, so I mentioned Jose, who was my best friend. What I didn't say until now is that my sister and Jose dated for years prior to he and I becoming friends. So I remember her asking me, it's like, who was the first guy that you kind of like messed around with? And I said, Jose. And she's like, oh, what? She's like, what did you guys do? I'm like, oh, we did everything. Hey guys, so this is a last minute edit. I figure if I'm gonna name the video when I'm gonna name it, I have to give up the goods, right? So the night when it actually happened with Jose, I remember I was over at his house, and he had 2 older brothers, and so it's kind of like some other guy was there too. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5 of us were there watching pornos on the TV. Eventually, me and Jose, we end up going into his mother's bedroom, and I remember there were condoms on the dresser, and like super cool, like neon. I never seen a condom before, but these were like neon green condoms. And I remember saying something to him about the condoms. I'm like, wow, those are so cool looking. And after watching the porn, I had seen condoms on the porn, which I think that was my first time actually seeing a porn. Yeah, it was. So he says, do you want a condom? And I said, yeah. And he goes, okay, I'll give you a condom if you let me use one on you. And so I said, okay, only if I can use one on you too. And so in his mom's room, on her bed, with these green condoms, we both put them on and lay down, and that was, I consider that like my first time, because it really was my first time and his first time. And yeah, it was actually compared to what happened before, my previous time, it was actually a great experience that I had fun, and I'm glad that I had that experience with him. We were both nervous. We both didn't know what we were doing, but somehow, and it wasn't long. I'll say that for either one of us, but we had a good time. Yeah. So she was like, well, how was he? I'm like, oh, he was good. 2 thumbs up. But yeah, that was something that we kind of bonded on. It was such a great moment, and I was inspired to make this video for several reasons. First off, I'm thinking about being that gay guy in the neighborhood, and people, because what I know for certain, I'm pretty sure now, there must have been some kind of rumor going on about me, to where other guys felt like they could get to that level with me. And again, I've always had that, starting from then, but even throughout my adulthood, where a lot of guys feel they get super comfortable, super close and open with me. And so I become privy to a lot of information about guys. That was the beginning, but I still think that something else must have been going on. The fact that all that stuff was happening, I'm like for certain that there must have been some rumor going on, and maybe I didn't contain it like I thought that I had. And so it was important for me to say, hey, for any of you who have had a similar experience, I've went through the same thing. But also just even in coming out to a sibling and in that situation, and yeah, it is what it is, right? I slept with my sister's boyfriend and she didn't. It's crazy, right? Please like this video, subscribe would be even better, but most importantly, if you guys have a similar story, I love this kind of stuff, so please share it with me. I would love to hear it, or type it.